I was a child, the presence that a prosperous future away for each one of us was extremely comforting and helpful. A world where everything was at your fingertips, at the reach of everyone. If you had asked me about 10 years ago which were my hopes for the future of this society, I would have told you about flying ships instead of cars, flying skateboards, digital books, and robots that in your eyes hold a bit of life, from a technology development society on large scale. But now I know that that was and still is a big lie to hide it wasn't true. My name is Nicole, I'm from Peru and we need to talk. Many speak of the future as it was in our hands, and others as it was too far away. It was an unfamiliar future to the reality that I was living. Everything that they promised us is still resonant. But there was a louder noise, a noise that had been growing with the time and had been fed by our actions. We always associate the future with the young people, with the children that we raise, that you raise. I always hear, if you educate a child, we will have never punished a man. I passed from articles with headlines like the generation of the future will have it easy to the generation of the future will suffer the consequences of the actions of its predecessors. Hope is a very strong word, a word that we don't see realize how to value. Peru, the country where I was born, is among the 7 countries with the greatest biological diversity on earth, becoming recognized as a mega-diverse country. But in spite of this, in spite of being surrounded by diverse climates and landscapes, we have no learned to respect it, and much less to take care of it. Lake Titicaca, a very valuable ecosystem because it concentrates a variety of life forms, and at the same time, its sustenance of thousands of Peruvian families is being seriously contaminated with sewage and domestic garbage, as well as waste from hospitals and business, all coming from Juliaca and the region of Puno. All this waste is thrown by the inhabitants into the Coto River, one of the 20 rivers that ends into the Titicaca. But the problem is not only the pollution, because most of it is caused by illegal and legal gold miners, which do not have environmental license or do not comply with the legal requirements that they post. Thousands of children in that area are getting sick for consuming water that is not suitable for human consumption, and then dying in the face of the indifference of the authorities. That without mentioning that Puno is a livestock area. They can even deny the fact because the doctor refused to treat them, and then they end up being exposed to constant threats from the miners and water companies. A silence that begins with the flora and fauna of the place. A silence that reacts to the inhabitants of the area. A silence that is responding to words. And then, the Amazon. The richest and most extensive tropical forest in the world, being considered the length of it. A single human footfall means coming into contact with 1,500 species, but all the life it holds is being threatened by the rapid deforestation. The world alone has lost nearly 1 million square kilometers of forest, equivalent to a fifth of the surface. Last year, we lost more than 23,000 hectares of forest in the first half of the year. And losses are increasing. But why? Why forests are destroyed and why don't authorities do anything? Because of this. This makes many people keep quiet. This makes what I just mentioned to you secondary to another major problems. This is taking the life of millions of species, including our own. But stop there. Watching this kind of videos or speeches that make you feel sorry for the world, it won't do anything. However, there are some things that we can change in our daily lives that have a massive impact, like the way you use electricity. Turn off the lights when you don't use them. Don't charge your phone during the night, as well as wasting light is dangerous. Disconnect plugs that are no longer in use. Water is also important. Take shorter showers, walking more, and cycling is healthier and reduces emissions. Say goodbye to plastic. Bottles and bags, unnecessary.
Cloth bags are eco-friendly and durable. Metal bottles too, and they keep the temperature much longer. Look at what you eat, it says a lot about you.
Believe it or not, 25% of all the climate change problems can be attributed to the food that we choose. If you really look at the whole process that had to go to get a single portion of beef, you will notice that 330 grams of carbon were emitted, which is equivalent to drive in car 5 kilometers. Now, if I choose to eat chicken, the use of emissions is really significant. It only produces 52 grams. And the figure continues to fall if we talk about fish, vegetables, and legumes, which only produce 2 grams. Livestock represents a little more than 14% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That, without mentioning the deforestation it causes with the aim of expanding grazing areas. While it is true to follow a vegetarian diet is difficult, much more a vegan, reducing the amount of meat consumption will help a lot. How about to eat meat every 2 months and chicken every 2 weeks? And what about a Mediterranean diet? It's healthier for you and for the environment. And the most important, use your voice. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will." 1959.
The Vietnam War breaks out, and 5 years later, already by 1964, there is incorporation and complete intervention of the United States, and by March of the next year, more than 3,000 Marines begin bombing in the north, one of many series. A war that had promised to be short and lasting 10 years more, but what made it end? It was neither a lack of resources or soldiers, it was a lack of support that the government received from the American people. Thousands of people went on strike against the war and stopped financing it. Such was the pressure generated by the opposition that the government had no alternative but to without its troops. Around the world, thousands of young people have raised their voices in protest against the government's indifference to the alarming situation caused by climate change. My mother once told me that the fact that some rocks had holes was due to the persistence with which the drop of water carved it. That is my voice. That is your voice. That is our voice. Let's be the drop of water in the rock.
All my life, I have been sure that we young people are the hope of the society, that we will save it. But what we will save if there is nothing left to save? Both me and thousands of young people put a great weight on us. Family members, teachers, politicians told us that we will do something great, that we will solve everything that they couldn't do, but how true was that? How true is it? Hope comes from the word trust, and even is a synonym of it. One can have confidence based in words, but only can maintain it based in actions. These are the ones that are able to keep the hope standing. And yes, we are taking actions, but not to the extent that we should. This is not about waiting for the next generation to do something to stop climate change. There is no simple time for that. They have given us 12 years, and by the time it's over, there will be many who have just finished college and others who just have the right to vote. This is about now, not what we expect to happen in a few years. And yes, I know, I'm still young. I still have a long way to go. By what right do I say all this? Well, you're talking with the future. The future that will save you and save millions. But like the future that I am, that we are, I ask you to make this future real and not remain in the hope of what it could have been if something had been done. I have no hope in the future. I have hope in the present, because the future belongs to the people that live in it.